There was a time when a woman without a man was called incomplete, lonely, unwanted, a failure, a cautionary tale for everyone else. That time is over. We are living through the first era in history where women don't need men to survive, not emotionally, not financially, not socially, and yet there's still this whisper in the background. But shouldn't you have someone? Let's get one thing straight. Being alone in 2025 isn't a failure. Living with a man who drains you, disrespects you, or dims you is. You're not broken because you're single. You're not behind. You're not missing out. What you're doing, whether consciously or not, is refusing to settle for emotional debt. Because here's what no one tells you. It's not brave to stay with someone who makes you feel smaller. It's not noble to carry a relationship that weighs you down. It's not romantic to keep forgiving what should never have happened. Alone is neutral. With the wrong man is negative equity. And the old tools, guilt, shame, pressure, don't work anymore. Your mom's generation worried about what the neighbors would think. Your generation? You worry about what it's costing your nervous system. So no, you don't need to give him another chance. You don't have to explain why you're still single. You don't owe anyone your softness if they've proven they can't handle your strength. This isn't bitterness. This is clarity. And this video isn't about men. It's about the radical, untaught truth. You are allowed to live your life alone. If alone means peace, clarity, and self-respect. But you're no longer allowed to call it love. If being with him feels worse than being without him, let's talk about what's changed and why you don't need to explain your freedom to anyone. For thousands of years, women needed men to survive, literally. Marriage wasn't about love. It was about protection, status, and food on the table. Single women were pitied, feared, excluded. Even independence was a fantasy, because without male access, most doors stayed locked. That was the old world. This is 2025. Women now earn their own money, own their own homes, raise their own children. They run companies, lead teams, and speak for themselves. They have access to healthcare, education, legal rights, and emotional resources that used to belong exclusively to men. We are living in the first chapter of human history where a woman can look at a man and think, do I actually want this? Or am I just afraid to be alone? That question used to be unthinkable. Now it's the beginning of power, because the biggest tool that was ever used to control women was dependency, emotional, financial, social, structural. Now that tool is gone. There is no reason, no real reason to stay with a man who doesn't bring peace, partnership, or value into your life. Not anymore. Your grandmother had no options. Your mother had a few. You have all of them. And with that comes a new kind of responsibility. To stop calling self-abandonment loyalty. To stop calling resentment commitment. To stop letting history guilt you into repeating patterns that no longer apply to your life. Because if you're still living by rules written for a different time, you will always feel like something's wrong with you. But it's not you. It's the script you're still trying to follow in a world that no longer requires it. This is the first time in history you get to build a life with someone, not because you need to, but because it's truly better with them than without. And if it's not better, you walk. In past generations, staying with a man, even a bad one, was survival. You needed him to pay the bills, to raise the kids, to give you legal status, protection, a place in society. So women learned to cope, to tolerate, to call suffering duty and silence grace. But in 2025, let's be honest, if you're staying with a man who disrespects you, drains you, embarrasses you, or erases you, you're not stuck. You're just scared. And that fear, it's no longer based on reality. It's based on conditioning. You're afraid of judgment, but no one's judging you. You're afraid of being alone, but you already feel alone in that relationship. You're afraid to start over, but deep down, you know that staying is slowing you down. Let's say it clearly. You staying with the wrong man is no longer about him. It's about your attachment to your own suffering. It's about the version of you that thinks, at least he's here. Maybe he'll change. It's not that bad, but not that bad is not good enough. Not for a woman who knows who she is. Not for a woman with access to resources, choices, and freedom. Take Leah, 33. Her boyfriend doesn't cheat, doesn't hit, doesn't scream, but he doesn't respect her either. He doesn't listen, doesn't grow, doesn't meet her halfway. He expects her to carry the emotional labor, the mental load, the relationship. She used to say, well, he's not terrible, until she realized not terrible is a terrible reason to stay. Because when the man in your life becomes a project, a weight, or a liability, you're no longer building a life, you're surviving it. And here's the truth no one wants to say. You're not obligated to keep teaching a grown man how to love you. You're not cruel for walking away from mediocrity. You're not selfish for choosing your peace over his ego. You're not broken for expecting more and leaving when it's not there. You are allowed to require more than bare minimum energy from a person who shares your bed, your time, your future. Because staying with the wrong man is no longer a prison. It's a pattern, and patterns can be broken. And once you do, you stop calling pain familiar and start calling peace normal. Let's remove the noise. Forget how long you've been together. Forget how much potential he has. Forget the apologies, the good moments, the sunk cost. Let's ask the only question that actually matters. Does this relationship bring more to your life than it takes away? That's it. Not, is he a good guy? Not, does he try sometimes? Not, is he better than my ex? Just this, more peace than stress, more growth than stagnation, more clarity than confusion. Because relationships aren't judged by their intentions, they're judged by their impact. You can love someone and still lose yourself around them. You can admire their heart and still be drained by their habits. You can see their potential and still drown in their inconsistency. And here's the real shift. You don't need a dramatic reason to leave. You just need enough data to know you're losing value. Think of your energy like a portfolio. Would you keep investing in a stock that keeps crashing just because it once looked promising? Of course not. So why keep investing in a man whose presence brings more anxiety than joy, more tension than tenderness, more confusion than safety? Because the truth is, if it's not building you, it's costing you, and you only get so much time, so much emotional bandwidth, so many years of your softness, your strength, your sanity. Every day with the wrong person is a day delayed from the right life, not just the right relationship, but the right you. Because when you're stuck in a dynamic where you constantly have to explain, justify, beg, manage, tiptoe, you lose track of the woman you were before all that. You start accepting crumbs, calling tension passion, calling exhaustion commitment, calling survival love. But deep down, you know, the real test isn't how much you love them. It's how you feel when you're with them. Do you feel powerful or smaller? Do you feel seen or managed? Do you feel safe or constantly unsure? This isn't about finding perfect. It's about demanding a minimum standard of emotional profitability. If it's not giving more than it takes, You don't need a reason to walk. You just need permission to stop sacrificing yourself for stability. And now, you've got it. Leaving isn't easy. Even when you know the relationship is wrong, it still hurts. It still shakes your sense of identity, routine, safety, because settling creates structure. Even toxic comfort is still comfort, until it's not. So let's be honest. The first phase after you stop settling will feel like loss. Loss of normal, loss of future plans, loss of someone you once believed in. But here's what no one tells you. That's not destruction. That's demolition, to make space for something real. Because once you stop tolerating low-effort love, low-energy conversations, low-respect treatment, everything starts to shift. At first, it's quiet. You spend weekends alone. You second-guess yourself. You might even miss him. But slowly, the fog clears. You start waking up with more energy. You stop rehearsing arguments in your head. You stop shrinking in your own space. You start hearing your own voice again. And then something wild happens. You become unavailable to bullshit, emotionally allergic to chaos, unwilling to coach a man through the bare minimum, not because you're bitter, but because you finally see the price of settling, and you're no longer willing to pay. When you stop asking for less, you stop receiving less. Let's look at the long-term game. In the short term, staying feels easier. You don't have to explain to friends. You don't have to deal with dating again. You don't have to face the silence. But in the long term, it's not easier. It's just quieter misery. And misery ages you. It slows your dreams. It fogs your confidence. It tells you to settle for crumbs because cake feels too much. But when you stop settling, your life recalibrates. Suddenly, your standards go up. Your peace becomes non-negotiable. You stop negotiating with pain. The man you attract next, or the life you build solo, will meet you where you are, not where you begged someone to rise to. Because what you tolerate teaches the world how to treat you. And when you stop tolerating less, you make space for more peace, more alignment, more respect from others and from yourself. So yes, leaving might cost you something now, but staying will cost you everything you could have become. You weren't born to manage someone else's immaturity, to absorb pain in exchange for moments of relief, to turn yourself into an emotional contortionist just to make something work that was never worthy of you. You're not broken for wanting more. You're not too much. You're not asking for a fairy tale. You're asking for peace, for partnership, for someone whose presence feels like safety, not stress. And if that's not what you have, then it's not home, and it's a holding cell. In 2025, there is no pressure strong enough to justify staying small. Not family, not fear, not love. This is the first time in history where a woman can choose to be alone without being punished by the world, and more importantly, without punishing herself. Because loneliness is not the enemy. Self-betrayal is. And the second you realize that, you unlock the most powerful question a woman can ask herself. Am I choosing this because it expands me, or because I'm afraid of what happens if I don't? From this moment forward, you owe no one your loyalty if it costs you your light. You are not a rehab center. You are not a life coach. You are not a second chance. You are a woman with a life, with a vision, with time that matters. So choose people, men, friends, partners, who are additive, not subtractive. And if the math doesn't work out, you walk. Now tell me this. What's the one moment you realized, I'm done settling for less than peace? Drop it in the comments. Not for validation, but because maybe your moment will become someone else's wake-up call. This is She Needs to Har This. 100 videos, 100 truths, no sugarcoating. Subscribe. Share this with the friend who needs to hear it, but is too afraid to say it out loud. And remember, you're not meant to survive love. You're meant to thrive in it.